Welcome to the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and I am on the mission to change the narrative of immigration, one immigrant story at a time. Hey everyone, Heidy De La Cruz here. So sorry to interrupt your listening, but I have a very special announcement. This podcast, The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants, is officially an award-nominated podcast. I'm so excited. I want to cry saying that. But I need your help to be able to win the award. I need your vote. And you only have to vote once. So the link is in the show notes and the instructions on how to vote. You just have to go to womenpodcasters.com/vote. You enter your name and email. You'll click on vote for your favorite podcast. You'll scroll down to find the category the podcast is in, which is society and culture. The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast should be the third podcast from the top down. You'll click on it, submit your vote. You just have to do this once, and this will help the podcast be able to win the Women in Podcasting Award. Thank you so much again for your continuous support. Please share this with your friends and family to get them to vote as well. And let's get this podcast officially award-winning podcast. Thank you. Well, welcome back everyone to another episode of The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and today I have a very special guest. I have Idrees. He is a child of immigrants. His parents came from Trinidad and Tobago, and I just want you to, well, first of all, thank you for being here being willing to share your story and your journey of, growing up with immigrant parents, because I'm a child of immigrants. My parents came from the Dominican Republic, and our experience are very different than children whose parents aren't immigrants. So I'm really excited to hear your journey and see what we relate, even though we're from different countries. And yeah, thank you so much. So let's get started with you sharing who you are, a little bit about your upbringing and your parents' journey. So
for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Trinidad. I'm born in South Florida, which is as I grew up, I tend to think it was kind of a privilege in a way to be from South Florida. All my friends are from the Caribbean or immigrants of some sort. Parents, like children, immigrants. Like I literally thought all of America was like South Florida until I went to college. I thought literally like everybody was from another country. Like even we used to wear little chains with like countries.
Yeah.
When we were kids, like we all had them, and like it was normal to me to all be from another place. So you ask somebody where they're from, they wouldn't say an American state, they would say like a country. Even if they're born here like me, they would always say a country.
Yes,
right?
I do that too. Like people like, where are you from? Dominican.
Yeah, same. Yeah. So because you're from automatically Trinidad, unless they specify, then I'll say South Florida or something like that. But yeah, growing in South Florida, I had to grow up. I really enjoyed it. Like my parents had a bunch of Trini friends and Guyanese friends. We're very similar in culture.
Okay.
Trinidad and Guyana, I'll explain later on, but Trinidad and Guyana are very similar in culture. Jamaican friends, Haitian friends. So I grew up around all Caribbean, and then also like Hispanics, South Americans, Colombians, Dominicans, a lot of Cubans, Puerto Ricans. Those are all my friends growing up. And I grew up with like Cuban bakeries on every corner. So it was like, it was a privilege growing up in South Florida, to be honest with you. It was great. Yeah.
So that's amazing that you actually had that mixture of culture, because again, depending on where our family lands, like which state they come to when they immigrate, depends on like whether we do find or have people around us with a similar culture or not. So like interesting thing that you said, like you thought the whole United States was this mixture until you got to college. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I wasn't even going that far. I went to UCF, which is right here in Orlando.
Okay.
But it was like meeting people from Jacksonville and stuff like that. I asked them where they're from. Again, I'm expecting a country. And they'll tell me, oh, I'm from Jacksonville. I'm like, oh yeah, but like where you're really from,
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, I'm from Georgia, or maybe my grandfather's from Georgia or something like that. And like I realized that, oh man, a lot of people really are, America really is a lot of Americans, So like I realized that, oh, it really is like more than South Florida. Kind of, I was in a bubble in a way.
Okay.
Thinking like, I remember I used to look, I like numbers and stuff. I used to look at the numbers and see like the Black Americans like 13%. I used to think that was a lie, because like where I'm from, there's no way it's only 13% of America is Black, right? It's no way. Then I realized other states like Montana and all the other places that aren't like South Florida, maybe even New York and stuff too, right? Like that are more than just that. So I kind of was in a bubble, kind of naive to the rest of the country. Even in Orlando is pretty diverse. And I used to live in Atlanta for a couple of years. That's when I learned like there was a lot of Americans. I lived in America, was in Atlanta. And so even in Atlanta, a lot of Jamaicans. I always look for my community wherever I'm at. I'll always look for Caribbean people wherever I go.
Yeah.
So, but it was just, it was different to understand, like, to really realize how different it was, you know? So
this is like a cultural shock.
Kind of culture shock.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so do you know when your parents came to the United States?
Yeah, different times. So my dad came different time. My dad actually came when he was young.
Oh, okay.
So back to when immigration laws weren't as strict. My dad's dad got a job in Miami. So when they came, luckily, back then laws were my grandfather's friend sponsored my dad's whole family. Like,
wow.
It was 6 kids, two adults, sponsored everybody. They all had papers immediately when they got here, right?
Yeah.
So that was different. That was like, I think the late 70s, I believe? I think the late 70s.
Okay.
So around then.
Yeah,
like
whole different world. Yeah.
Late 70s. So back then there wasn't any like rule, which is my opinion, a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they were able to come and had no issue. In the area of Miami that is called Opelika. It's kind of a bad area, right? In Opelika. I know my dad, back then in Miami, there was a lot of like Cuban versus black type of tension. So they thought my dad's family was Cuban. So they used to like get rocks thrown at them all the time because they're in an all black neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
So like, and then usually Cubans live in a Cuban neighborhood, blacks live in a black neighborhood. So my dad being from Trinidad, not fitting into either really, you know. I kind of want to explain to how we're Indian. I'm Indian by race, but culturally I'm from Trinidad, right? So, but yeah, so back when the British abolished slavery in the Caribbean, like in colonies calling their own, like Trinidad, Jamaica, St. Vincent, Grenada, all the islands that the British owned, when they abolished slavery, they still needed workers to work the plantation, right? Mm-hmm. So they brought in Chinese people first. It wasn't really working out. So they ended up putting Chinese in charge of the shops, which they still do to now. If you go to Jamaica, Trinidad and stuff now, Chinese still run a lot of the shops. Then they brought people from India because back then the British owned India. So they brought people from India over as indentured servants for a contract of like 5 years. They were paid after their contract was up or during their contract. I can't remember exactly. It was very minimal pay though. Mm-hmm. So the agreement was if they could afford it, they could go back to India, right? Majority of them couldn't afford to go back to India. So like in Trinidad and Guyana especially, and Suriname too, you see a lot of Indians. Like Trinidad is basically like 30% black, 30% Indian. And then like the rest of it is like mixed race, like other races like Chinese, Syrian, a lot of Venezuelans now, white. But majority black and Indian. Same in Guyana too. We have a similar history with black and Indian. A lot of Indians in Jamaica as well. So I'm Indian of descent. My grandmother's grandmother on both sides are both from India.
Wow. Okay.
And my grandmother actually grew up on a plantation. She spoke Hindi and stuff because her mom had died. So she was raised by her grandmother who spoke Hindi. That language lost basically like right after. Like, so my mom's generation, like my dad, even my grandmother on mom's side, no one speaks anything but English, right?
Okay.
Because it kind of dies off. So, but yeah, it's just interesting. Like not much people know about Indians in the Caribbean and like our history.
I'm learning, so I'm like, you guys are just a big mix.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's what it is in the Caribbean, like a big mixture.
Yeah.
Because of the slave trade.
Because it's colonization causes a lot of mix. I'm kind of interested. It's interesting to see all the different people that live in different places. You know, so like you go to Trinidad now, a lot of our food is influenced by India, and as well as Africa and China. A lot of our food influences everything. Yep. So that's kind of what makes Trinidad. So like when I was a kid, I had more in common with black people than I did with Indian people, right?
Okay.
You know, I'm Indian, but the African influence of the Caribbean is so strong. So if they weren't like Indian Caribbean, and they're from India, I wouldn't have much in common with them. Okay. They're Indian from the Caribbean, you know? Like from India, like we just have a lot of differences and a lot of different ways we see things. So it's kind of a different culture, even though we're the same race, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. So tell me about visiting Trinidad.
Oh yeah.
The very first time.
Yeah, I guess to add to that too, I went off topic, but
no, you're fine.
My mom came here probably in the late 80s. My mom came illegal, and it kind of ties in with your question. Because of that, my mom's whole family is still in Trinidad, and my dad's family is mostly in America, right? Because they came as kids. My mom left by herself. She came illegal. I think I was born in 1990, so I think she came late 80s, I believe, or maybe mid 80s. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, she came around then. So because of that, so whenever we visit my family in Trinidad, I have a lot of family over there still. That's on my mom's side. Okay. So one of my dad's brothers, actually, is funny. The youngest one, my dad moved here when he was like in his teens. The youngest sibling was like 3 years old. He actually moved back to Trinidad. So whenever I'm back in Trinidad, I used to visit my dad's brother and my mom's whole family. Okay. So my grandmother, all my cousins, my aunts and uncles, they're all there. And I love it. Like, I kind of feel like I grew up, even though I mentioned like South Florida, like I felt in a bubble. For example, if I say my name Idrees, it's an Arabic name. I say Idrees, everyone gets confused, like, oh, Idrees, like, what is that, right? But I go to Trinidad and say Idrees, everyone's like, okay, cool, Idrees, yeah, what's up? You know what I mean? It's like they're used to hearing names like that, you know? Because like Trinidad's a melting pot with Indians and Africans, everything like that. So used to hearing like Arabic names, Hindu names, African names. They're used to hearing different names. So when I say Idrees, like, I feel like it's no confusion, you know?
What does your name mean?
It's a name of a prophet that is in the Quran. It's a prophet. One of the prophets. It's actually spelled like the actor, Idrees. Apparently I put 2 E's in it, but it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a creative, but yeah. So yeah.
Okay. I know I asked about the name thing because I know that from different cultures, like the names can have different meanings. So that's why I asked. And then you said it was Arabic. Yeah. Okay, cool. So you would visit your mom's family.
Mostly my mom's family. I spent a couple of days with my dad's side. Well, my dad's brother, and I have cousins on my dad's side too, like second cousins and stuff who I'm still really close with. Like some of my close cousins on my dad's side who were like second or third cousins, but we're still really close. Yeah. But my mom's whole side is there, so I'll spend a lot of time there. Like even people, sometimes I don't feel like telling people I was born here. I'll just say I'm from Chicago or something, which is where my mom is from, that city. I'll just say that because I'm familiar with that area a lot. I know I still walk there a lot when I was a kid. Now the crime's kind of high in Trinidad, so you can't really walk around like that anymore. But I used to walk there a lot. Like I remember I used to go get my haircut there sometimes, but back when I had hair. So I do a lot of things. So yeah.
And the official language?
It's English. With a dialect. If it's speaking in heavy slangs, like crazy slangs, the average American person probably wouldn't understand them. Okay. But if they're speaking like regular, it's very easy. It's not like, I think Jamaicans are much harder to understand than a Trinidadian. We have a lot of similar slangs though. I say Jamaican a lot because that's the most popular island, right? I can use a lot of comparison. Yeah, it's English with a dialect. Sure, yeah.
Okay, cool. So the cultural shock that you experienced was in college. So now as an adult, like looking back at how you grew up and, you know, visiting back home and everything, and just how do you think that has like defined you as a person?
It definitely creates a huge pride I have for my culture and obviously my parents' culture as well. Huge pride in it. I feel like like I mentioned before, I lived in Atlanta for 2 years. I was like 26. I always try to seek out like the community in some way. If I'm in Atlanta, I found a lot of Jamaicans there. I found like 2 or 3 Trini spots. I'll always go there. I think it's helped me a lot. Like even like I know when I was younger in high school, I knew a lot of Trini. Some of them never went to Trinidad before, and I felt like I know so much about Trinidad. I just know so much about Trinidad. Like I love history, so I love history. I love like culture and stuff. So I just know so much, right? And I think that's helped me a lot as a person. Like it shaped who I am as a person. Yeah. It shapes like in terms of my interests, really. Like when it comes to like food, I love Trini food. I always try to like wherever I'm at, I try and get a Trini restaurant, you know, stuff like that. So it just really shaped me as an adult, you know. So
what is a typical dish?
My favorite is something called doubles. It's a common, you can sell it every corner in Trinidad, somebody selling it. It's like a fried kind of bread, rather, called bara, with chickpeas, like curry chickpeas and sauce like tamarind, pepper, stuff like that on top of it. And it's like, you eat it with your hand. It's really good. Like, you eat like 3 of them in one time. It's like kind of small. Yeah. So they're good. That's the common thing. Like, people mention, like, again, Indian influence. You can see Indian influence with that. Yeah. Like, a lot of roti with, like, curry chicken, curry goat, curry beef, stuff like that. Yum. Saltfish, and then like the African influence, it's like pilau. It's like a dish made from slavery, like put anything in one pot, you know, like rice, peas, carrots, meat, everything together in one pot. Stuff like kalaloo is like that's shared amongst the Caribbean as well. Cassava, which you get cayuca. So like similar stuff like that, you know. So saltfish, you guys call bacalao, right? So similar foods, you know. So that's probably from like all of the indigenous people too. So
yeah, definitely. Is there any? You have to send me a recommendation of any Trinidad restaurant here, so I can really try.
I love one. I love one a lot. It's in Altamont. It's called Sherry Trini Flavors. Big them up. They're really good. They're really good. Yeah. So that
I'll find it and link it in the show notes. Okay. Definitely got to try that. But yeah, definitely a lot of influence from the West Africa and Indian because of the whole slave trade thing. But so I want to ask, what does the American dream mean to you?
I would say the ability, and I know I love Trinidad, but I am grateful to be in America for a lot of reasons, right? I sometimes look at my family in Trinidad and I think like it's a lot smarter than me, but it's not the opportunities there, right? Or like the crime in Trinidad has surged recently, a lot of gang violence and stuff and kidnapping and stuff. It makes me feel like I live in America relatively, like I feel relatively safe for the most part, you know?
Yeah.
I don't really have that fear of like, I don't have that experience of waking up and seeing newspaper and seeing murders, how much murders were last night, you know, and stuff like that. So I think my family shouldn't have to deal with on a regular, which sometimes feel kind of a guilt, like I'm like not feeling that. I'm not feeling that. You know, that's why I kind of sometimes don't claim Trinidad. Like I think I was talking about this before we started airing, like how I sometimes would like I'm too Trini for Americans, but too American for Trinis, right? So my family in Trinidad would say, "Oh, this is American."
Yes.
And in school, and I was growing up, everyone called me Trini. That's my name, like my nickname.
Trini?
Yeah.
Did you like that, or did you find that offensive?
I thought it was cool. Yeah,
I
liked it. Yeah, I liked it. I embraced it. Yeah, I embraced it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I embraced it. Like people call me Trini all the time, and like when I was in school, like call me Trini, scream out Trini. I know you're talking to me. Like you know. So American to me is like the ability to like be able to, I guess be married, have kids, be able to live without the worry. Obviously, I'm not saying be a millionaire, but the worry about is be able to just live a comfortable life. You know what I mean? You could live comfortably. Like you could be able to have somewhere to stay that's relatively decent looking, without the fear, the constant paranoia of crime all the time, right? And the constant paranoia of like living without any opportunities. Which I would say some states in America do have that same kind of thing, right? So you can live in some states where there's no opportunities, stuff like that. Some areas in Orlando, in Florida, rather have the same things. Yeah. But the dream to me is able to live that life. So the dream to me is you have a family, your family's taken care of. You don't be a millionaire, you don't be super rich, but your family's taken care of, you know, and you're safe, you know. So that's a dream to me.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for that. And do you have any advice? I mean, I know you didn't immigrate, but you know the experience. So any advice for someone who may be thinking of moving to the United States?
In terms of the process or like in terms of anything?
Just anything, because the reason why I asked this question is when I first started this podcast, I was like, okay, my target audience is here in the United States. However, my podcast is now being listened to in over 90 countries.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know. That really surprised me as well. Like, whoa, like this is, worldwide. So if there may be someone from a different country who is listening to this podcast and maybe thinking about coming to the United States, like what is one advice that you would tell them?
Yeah, I guess this applies to me even not as an immigrant. Like this, find your community wherever you're at. Like I make an effort to seek out my community wherever I'm at. And if it's I always wherever city I'm at, if I'm in I went to Houston once, I found a Trinity spot in Houston. It's like I just try to seek out my community. So wherever you're at, try and find a community. It'll probably make the adjustment a little easier. Yeah. Because you could, if you speak the language to those people, they could teach you resources, show you where to go, make it feel a piece of home. Yeah. Without actually being home, and I think that helps the adjustment a lot better. And in terms of the process, I noticed even my job now, a lot of people are on a work visa, which is great. So I think the best thing I realize now for immigration seems like they're cracking down a lot, but on work visas and student visas, I feel a lot of people are getting through with those. So they can find a way to somehow get that. I don't know the process. I know it's not easier said than done. Yes. I know it's a lot harder than what I'm saying. Yes. But it's all a process. It is. I know a lot of my job at work visas, and a lot from Brazil, a lot from Peru, stuff like that. And I think they're all fighting for the American dream, you know, to come and do the same thing. So
yeah, definitely. Any last thing that you want to say?
No, I think we'll be here. I'm happy to share a little light on Trinidad. I feel like Trinidad is like it's a million people in Trinidad, but I feel like, and also we invented the steel pan. We weave it to limbo, calypso music, soca music. The biggest carnival is in Trinidad for carnival. So like people fly every year for carnival in Trinidad. So I just want to give more light in Trinidad because I feel like when people think Caribbean, think of Jamaica and Bahamas and like the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and Cuba, but not really the rest of the countries.
The islands,
you know, like it's Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados, a bunch of other islands along the way that don't get enough credit, and they're extremely like they have a big influence on the world. Like for example, like I mentioned, steel pan. People are synonymous with steel pan in the Caribbean, not knowing that started in Trinidad. You know, so limbo too. People do limbo at kids' birthday parties, right? And that started in Trinidad as well. I started from slavery, limbo, you know. So
really,
yeah, the slaves had danced. It was a dance to it, and then it became a thing, and it kept happening, you know. So
wow, I did not know that.
So it's like I just want to shed light. There's a lot of Trinis in Miami and New York. Orlando have a lot of Guyanese, but big one, like I said, we're very similar in culture. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just want to shed light. If you don't know about Trinidad, you should look it up, research it. So,
yeah. Oh, the carnival. Yeah. When is that?
It's the Monday and Tuesday before Ash Wednesday, but
in February. Yes, usually. That's right. Okay.
But starting from New Year's, it's similar to Brazil Carnival. Starting from after New Year's Day till that is Carnival season. Okay. So there's what we call fêtes, which is a French influence in Trinidad. It's like a lot of influence, like Spanish influence in Trinidad, French, and then lastly was the British influence, is why we speak English, right? But the French influence was started Carnival. The slave used to try to emulate the French. They used to have like balls where they did kind of like masquerade balls. Okay. So like dressed up in costumes and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the Africans, once they became free, they did their own thing. Which is why to this day they call people who play Carnival as they play mask. Mask is short for being in like masquerade. So mm-hmm. if you're playing mask, you are a masquerader. You play mask, and that's like where it came from. So much before Ash Wednesday. So New Year's Day till then is fêtes. We have fêtes like every day, basically until Carnival Day itself. It's Carnival season. They play a lot of soca, a lot of steel pan, rhythm sections, which is like beating on iron and stuff like that. Stick fighting, which is like a martial arts that's started in Trinidad as well. Like they have all these contests. They have like the Moko Jumbi, which is the people on the stilts who walk. That's a big thing in Trinidad. There's like obviously from Africa, obviously, but huge in Trinidad as well during Carnival time. So we really showcase the culture the most during Carnival time. Yeah. You can see a lot of influence from Africa during Carnival a lot. Like that's where you see the most of it. You see like different kind of African folklore being portrayed, like the Job and Job Malasi and stuff like that. It's a really cool time to see. There's more than just the party. There's a lot of culture there too. So yeah, I am learning a lot. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's great. Appreciate it. Yes, for being here and sharing so much information, so much history too, and just sharing your experience. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.